So welcome out to another time with Uncle Sam. I'm sitting down with Duane Bischoff, and he's running for commissioner for District 2. And I asked Duane to do one more podcast here. There's been a lot of talk on social media about zoning changes, sewer. There's a lot of things going on in our county. And I am somebody who doesn't like to hear the gossip. I kind of want to get to the heart of things and the fact. I know nothing really about zoning. My parents, when they moved to this area, bought a house in the city limits, and we never did anything with it, so I never knew about that. The first two homes I bought were in city limits, never cared about them, and now I'm out in the county, and there's nobody building or developing really around me. So this whole zoning conversation is new to me. We've talked a couple times on the phone, and I've appreciated the perspective that you had. And my wife read me a quote recently. It was from Benjamin Franklin. It said something along the lines of, this was Benjamin Franklin. He said, "I would rather it be said of me, I lived usefully than I died rich." And so if we could call this a useful conversation, this may not be, I know in the world of politics, you're supposed to stay away from the touchy topics, right? While you're running for office, and then deal with the touchy issues afterwards. So we're not going to try and go into a he said, she said, or claiming what the future is going to be. You don't have a crystal ball.
Nope.
But I've appreciated the conversations we've had on the phone, and you've explained a little bit to me about zoning changes, growth, the direction where the county's going to go, or maybe should go, or what things. So if we were to start with, you're knocking doors and you're saying, "Hey, I'm Duane Bischoff, I'm running for commissioner. Would you consider voting for me, or could I put a sign up in your yard?" And somebody says, well, I'd like to talk to you first. Can you explain to me what this zoning issue is? What would your response be? Front porch conversation, sitting down with someone.
To me, the zoning change, the only reason I can see the change for what they did was to increase or spur residential development quickly and easily.
Okay.
Currently, if you were to purchase a farm, say you purchased my farm, I was Ag 1, the developer would have had to then go through the zoning process, contact the neighbors, do all this paperwork for it, which for a person to do a zoning change is a lot harder than a county to do it. So they'd had to contact these people. Everybody has their opportunity to complain or voice their reasons, and then it's up to the planning and zoning to do that specific farm. But so since this has changed, my farm now is one house on it. Now with the zoning change, the residential zoning goes down to a half-acre lot. So theoretically, could be 70 to 80 houses on my farm. My neighbors can no longer have any say in that real argument because it's zoned residential now. So that developer was already crossed that first hurdle. In my area, when it goes to sewer, we're in the St. Leon Sewer District, so sewer's here. So there's no stopping, there's no reason for a developer not to be able to develop 80 to 100 houses as long as the system still has capacity. I know
were you on the sewer board at one point?
Yeah, I was president of the sewer board for 6 years. I got on, the sewer was started, and then I got on to help my parents. There was issues, they had a greenhouse, so they were done.
Okay, gotcha.
So I got on the board, so I was left with the problems or got started there. And our board had to deal with all these things that they didn't think about. People dumping water on the ground, farmers watering their cattle, all that water you're paying sewer for. So I was on there. So I know, I've read sewer ordinances. I understand most of the laws. I understand what our laws are here.
Right.
So a large section of where the rezoning has changed has sewer, or sewer is real close. So sewer could be extended as long as capacity is there. Once there's sewer, it's hard to stop growth because our ground...
Hard to stop development?
Hard to stop development, yes. Residential development.
Okay.
Because that is one of the hard things about our soil doesn't percolate septic. So you need either a larger plot of land or you need sewer. Bright has been developed because of sewer. Sewer was installed over there. I think Tucker built the sewer system for Bright, and then that allowed Bright to boom the way it is. The only reason Bright is what it is and is as congested as it is because there's sewer there. So once the zoning changes and that development can go, you can only imagine what those roads, these county roads that have been turned from ag to residential 1 are going to look like in the future.
So when I live on the other side of the county. I think most of what is around us is residential or agriculture, but the residential stuff is larger plots of land. I have one subdevelopment on the other side of the town and maybe one out US 50. And I've also been hearing, and I know more people over on that side of the county than I do up here. So the two voices I hear talking are, well, hey, we want more homes coming in because it increases property value and taxes go up so that it makes it cheaper for everyone to be here because we have more homes. And people explain it to me, like, when I had a lawn care business. Well, Sam, you'd rather have 50 lawn care accounts in a 10-minute radius than 5 because you make more money. And then I hear other people go, no, that's wrong. It actually costs more for infrastructure. If I'm somebody who lives in, and I understand most of the people who are concerned about the ag changes, and I don't think I don't know for a fact, I don't want to even speculate. I'm not saying, and I don't think you're saying here that the county's got some agenda to, do things, but there are people who are concerned who go, wait, I was kind of protected by these laws to protect this rural life that I have.
Right, the green space.
And now I don't have any pushback. What's stopping somebody to come in 5-10 years from now? I think this is, we need to look at this differently. So on that side of the conversation, there's people who are concerned saying, yeah, I don't want a subdevelopment coming in right next door to me. But what about the people who live in already subdevelopments that are nice areas? I think Bright's a really nice area. Right. Some of the subdevelopments over by me, Indian Ridge, very nice area. What is the downside to, and what's the balanced perspective argument here as far as what happens to cost of living, what happens to taxes, what are the things that people don't think about when there's rushed or quick, or when there's no way to properly schedule out continual growth. If the zoning changes have been changed, and what people are telling me is correct, 5 years from now there can be a new development comes in and there's 5,000 new homes or 500,000 new homes or whatever the number is. Right. There's a large increase.
Could be, yes.
Could be. What are the consequences of that? What kind of ramifications can we expect? If I'm somebody who lives in Lawrenceburg or Bright and I go, I don't have farm ground next to me, what do I care? How does that affect my life? Does it affect it at all as far as the county growth?
Yeah, because like say the St. Leon sewer, I'll pick on it because I'm here. If say you're building a development right next to the sewer, but the sewer can be extended, so lines need to be run, to get that on. Well, that costs money. Somehow they've got to come up with that money. So if they don't have the savings or they don't pass that burden on to the developer, which that's what we used to do, and I don't know if it's still done, but if they don't pass that burden on to the developer, where's it going to go? It has to go to the current customers that are already on the system, so they're going to have to foot the bill. And
isn't the new thing though with developments? Somebody had mentioned, and I sorry to interrupt you here, but this HOTIF, do you know what that is?
No.
I looked into it and I called a guy up in Indianapolis that was affiliated with some of this. It's where the county or the municipality, the town, gives the money to the developer ahead of time for them to
upgrade systems,
to upgrade roads, systems, utilities.
Yeah, I don't know. There was never any of that when I was on sewer board. We put the burden on the developer to do. I was very strict. I had one rule. It was the same rule though. It was the same rule for you, or if somebody else came in. That way, I only had to remember one thing. I didn't have to have special rules. So we were very strict, and we were not liked by a lot of developers because we had one rule. So some of the developers didn't like us.
What was the one rule?
Everybody pays the same. Well, you got no special break. You're a developer. You want to put 50 houses over there? You have 50. We used to call them EDUs. Every unit was one EDU. So you had to pay us 50 EDUs. Apartment complexes, we considered them one EDU each. And we had that same rule. We didn't give them any breaks because they were going to give us 50 customers. Oh, you're going to make this income. No, you're also putting a burden on our system, and you're taking our system closer to capacity, which is eventually going to cost our customers more money. So we always have to think that we've got to make our money off of everybody to try to build the kitty to be able to expand the system or grow the system. I know the system's got to be getting close because I haven't been on the sewer board in 20 years. So it's got to be getting closer to capacity because growth has not stopped. So it's got to be getting there. And I don't think, I mean, hopefully maybe they have a master plan that they thought this through and they've got money built and they've got a plan for it, but I don't see it. Nobody's saying it. And if they do have this master plan, put it out here. Let us see what this master plan is, how you're going to take care of roads, infrastructure. How are you going to expand the roads, the county roads, to handle the extra traffic? I mean, we're right here by the school. We call it the zoo's getting ready to let loose. The kids are flying to school. These roads right in front of me, in front of our shop here, 2 times during the day, you don't leave here because it's this freeway out here. It's just packed busy. Now add 500 more houses in this area, which could easily be done. There's 1,000 more kids at least. I mean, They generally figure every house is 2 kids. Now you've got 500 houses, at least 2 cars per house, so another 1,000 cars. You know, who's handling all this, and where's the plan for this future growth? When you change zoning, you change growth. It's going to come.
So even if I live in a already developed area and there's no farm ground next to me, the zoning still would affect me over the next 5-10 years because of cost of, you're saying sewage would go up.
Well, everything could go up. Your sewage could go up. Your roads got to be improved. How are roads improved? This road improved through taxes. The whole infrastructure, the whole system is going to get burdened more because you're adding more people and more stuff to the system. It has to. Your congestion on road traffic is going to get worse. You know, the roads around here, these are all 2-lane roads, barely 2-lane roads. You know, they're not state roads. So how are you going to add on for the extra burden of the wear and tear on those roads?
Okay.
You don't get enough property taxes off those new houses to take care of it. Is what I was always told.
I was talking to a county engineer, I guess a year or 2 ago, and I never really understood this, but I remember him telling me the road tax that the county gets is only something like 3%. Like there's a cap of how much of your
right.
A large portion of your property taxes goes to the schools.
Well, and there's another thing. You add 1,000 kids. What are you going to do with the school system? Where are you going to put those extra kids? Yes, schools are depleting, but East Central, I don't think is really. Some in Dearborn school districts isn't shrinking.
So what happens then? How would that affect my tax base if I live right across from South Dearborn High School? If they add 400 kids and they have to grow, does the school board have the authority to now pass a special tax to?
I don't think Indiana has a way to say no to school taxes. I've never seen a school tax get shut down.
Nor do we want to, but we don't want to be in a situation, or I don't want to be in a situation where now we're forced to, because things develop too quickly, we're forced to have a situation of, hey, do we need to pay more taxes, or do we neglect kids?
Right, yeah, nobody
wants to neglect kids.
Right, nobody wants to do that, but what is your plan out of this? If you created this, what is your plan out of this? So what's been created right now, it may not be realized for 5 to 10 years, like you said. But
in 5-10 years, it's too late to do anything.
Right. If you wait 5 years to make the plan for what's going to happen, what do you do?
Okay.
That's why I said, if they have this master plan, let us see it. Show us this plan. Show us what your plan is for this rezoning, other than what I'm assuming is you're developing this for development. You've changed this. I've got the new and the old zoning map, and if you lay them side by side, you can see it basically takes residential.
So if I'm looking at the zoning maps side by side, what am I looking at? What do I need to
You need to look at the colors, and you look from, say, East Central down 46 down towards Bright. You can see the zoning change. It basically turned what was green space Ag 1 into residential and business development, basically.
Okay.
You can see the colors. It's all in colors. So
how did that whole thing change? I assume you have to have a certain amount of public knowledge or something else. I heard about it afterwards, and maybe it's just because I don't hear about this stuff. Or
I heard about it towards the end, which I didn't realize it was the end. I thought it was just getting going, so I thought I had plenty of time. I went to one meeting. I was out of town for another one. At the one meeting, I gave them some ideas because I sat in on a growth session with the town of St. Leon. There was a professor, I believe, from Ball State.
Okay.
I told him the information the gentleman had. It was about condensed development, where you keep green space. You take a 100-acre farm, you put the same amount of houses on it you take a typical subdivision, it cuts it up, puts houses on it. You take those same amount of houses, you condense them, but you keep the farm. So you keep the aesthetics of having a rural area, but you still build houses. And I told him about this project, and I said, hey, why don't you look into this, see if you can find that, and then let me know if you find it. And, oh yeah, we'll get back with you. I haven't heard a thing. Next thing I know, my zoning got changed. I didn't realize this was at the end of it. And they followed the law. They did exactly what they have to do by law. But when this big of a change, there should have been a lot more information given to the people.
Okay. So let's say, take your farm, for example. If you had wanted to, and I know this isn't what you want to do, you want to stay here, etc. But you had mentioned something the other day, if you wanted to sell your, with the new changes, you could sell your property today,
I could cut it all
retire,
up and retire. Yeah.
But then you'd have to move away.
Right, then I got to move away, and I don't want to move away. This is my grandma's farm. I bought my grandma's farm. I promised her I'd keep this farm. So my intent is I've moved the last time, it's to this farm. That's where my intent is to live there the rest of my life. But, for the people who decide I don't want to live here no more and they want to cash out, now you can cash out. And, it's going to happen.
Let's say you hadn't made your grandma a promise to do that and you were okay with moving, or etc. What were the changes you would have had to go through to put a development there before, and now what's the path?
From what I'd have to go to, you still have to put a plan, and you have to get for me, I would have to get a road access permit from the state. But it's been zoned R1. You can take R1 down to a half-acre lot.
So I
could put roads in.
If I were your neighbor and lived right next door to you, and I didn't want that development going in, prior to the zoning, would I have been able to stop that?
You had a say in it. You had a voice in it. You could go to the zoning meetings, because I would have had to send you a certified letter saying this is what's happening, and then it would have given you the time for a meeting, and you would have had your chance to voice your opinion verbally or in writing.
And now
which is what they want me to do now, to put it back to Ag 1. I have to pay for all these certified letters. It's about $1,100 to put my farm back to what it was, Ag 1, or to Ag from R1. They want me to pay $1,100 when I didn't ask to have it changed. But the neighbors would have a say, so they can go to those meetings and voice their opposition to it, argue quality of life. We don't want 80 houses by us, whatever it is. And then it's up to planning and zoning to decide, are those arguments justified? And they've told me that because I farm, that no one can ever argue that I can't farm. Well, we've never done that. Until when? You've never done that until when? Concern. Right, yeah. Who's to say that 10 years from now,
there's new people on the zoning board?
All new people there. They all leave tomorrow, and there's all new people there, and the new people there want development. They want growth. So they don't want me farming. They don't want cattle. They don't want the smell or anything. So they come and say, hey, you're a residential. We're changing the rules, and you no longer can keep cattle on your land because you're not agricultural anymore.
So this is just me thinking out loud. But if I were in a situation like that, my grandparents own a property just outside of Peoria, Illinois. It's a small farming community. My grandpa's was a fourth generation dairy farmer, and 7 kids, German farming family. They actually purchased part of his farm to put I-74 going through his farm, which brought, Caterpillar came to town. My uncles, his kids, and his grandson, one of my cousins, had a job at Caterpillar. So that was a part of that development. But it's interesting to see, the town keeps growing that direction and growing towards that. So if now my uncles and my aunts, the kids, the 7 kids, own this 180-acre farm. So if I was in that situation, and my uncles rent that farm ground, they still farm that area. If the cost of taxes goes up, and now something's zoned residential, my concern would be, and tell me if I'm right or wrong here, but this is just in conversation, this is what comes to mind. My concern would be that the farm would get so valuable to developers, and the taxes would go up because the lit tax and other things, which if we have to raise taxes, we have to raise taxes. I'm not,
right.
We have to be able to cover emergency services. We have to be responsible. You got to make a budget balance, but you don't have to have, you can also control where you're spending, where you cut, and sometimes you can trim fat instead of cutting taxes. But anyway, point is, if I were in that situation, my concern would be that the farm taxes would continue to go up while the market value of what that farm can produce doesn't.
Right.
So do we get to a situation here where farmers are literally priced out of being able to compete because I can't farm this ground?
It's probably already there now here. I mean, the
Really?
price of land right now, price of farming is probably already there unless you're niche farming. you're doing something special, you know, you're doing something different. Our area is the farms are getting cut up and getting smaller and smaller.
So you talk about niche farming. What's an example of that? People homesteading, people doing...
The homesteading type thing where, like, I raise grass finished beef. My cattle are raised from start to finish to processing on grass only. So it's a different beef, different way of production.
So are you concerned at all with this new zoning change that you could eventually lose the right to farm?
That's what my thing is. There is a statute in Indiana, you have a right to farm, but the way laws change and the way zoning changes,
is there a technicality between farming and commercial farming? Somebody else had made a comment to me. That's what I don't understand.
If I do commercial farming, if you want to go into a certain level, then setbacks start playing in, which I don't have enough property for that type of... They're talking like feedlot production. Like if you're going to put a commercial feedlot in for cattle, then you have setbacks from the road. There are regulations to control that, which there needs to be. So you don't, I don't go across the street here and put 1,000 head of cattle on 100 acres.
Right.
That's there for a purpose. But frankly, the thing is, I just trust. I don't trust that the next person after these people are going to do the same as this is.
Right.
Because it's easier for a county to change a zoning than it is for me.
So in recap, your concern is not that any of the current people involved have anything malicious against your farm or trying to break things up. You're concerned with the way that things are structured now, the way things have been structured, that potentially farmers can get priced out. There's no slowing down or a way to have, it can lead to a point where we have irresponsible development that's going too quickly, that drives up the cost of education, taxes, roads are in disrepair, or we have to raise taxes to cover those. We have to have special taxes or additional taxes, or the cost of utilities are going up. The cost of living rises.
Or our quality goes down. Our quality of living, if the roads can't be maintained, the roads get worse. That's wear and tear on your car. It's going to tear your car up more. So it's not a matter of raising enough money to maintain it. Is our quality of life can go down. Someone once said to me,
if I moved to Cincinnati, my quality of life would go down. It's too congested for me.
Right, but someone also said to me, I can't remember who it was, but sometimes not developing is growth. Because you're maintaining your way of life. People are moving out here because they want the green space. They want to be away from the city. Well, if we turn this into the city, then where do you go next? Do you just go to Ripley County? Do we just move across the county line and we start doing the next thing? Like I said, my fear is the zoning has created the potential for uncontrolled growth.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be very hard to stop it or slow it down. And like I said, unless they have this master plan that they're not telling anybody. So if you have it, please show us. Tell us where it is. And what is your plan for 5-10 years? What was your thought process by creating all this residential zoning? What is your thought process for handling that influx of 500 houses, whatever? I don't think there is one.
All right. Well, Duane, thanks so much for taking the time to
No
sit
problem.
down with
Thanks,
me and
Sam.
explain this a little bit more. Hopefully that helps everyone else, and we'll go from there.